At our rehearsal dinner, she admitted she was settling for me. So I canceled the wedding, took a solo honeymoon, and 6 months later her entire family showed up begging me to take her back. I always thought the rehearsal dinner would be the easy part. A warm room, clinking glasses, a few safe jokes from the best man. The kind of slow, predictable evening where nothing major happens because the major thing is supposed to happen the next day. But it felt different the moment we walked in. Not bad, just off. Like I kept catching a draft no one else felt. We'd been together 4 years, long enough that we'd learned each other's micro-expressions, the little tells, the tension behind certain smiles. And that night, something in her face was too tight. A smile she was holding up instead of falling into naturally. "Hey," I whispered as we stepped inside the private dining room. "You okay?" "Fine," she said quickly. "Just tired." Rehearsals were long. She kissed me on the cheek, light and quick, already turning toward her friends. I let it go. Not because it felt fine, because I'd gotten good at telling myself some things weren't big enough to worry about. That had become a pattern in the last 6 months. Little comments, weird silences, plans she would change at the last minute because something more important came up. The subtle defensiveness whenever I asked normal questions like, "Who's going to the event with you?" Or, "Do you want me to pick you up after?" Not cheating vibes. More like emotional distance. Emotional preemptiveness. The kind of retreat someone performs before a confrontation they haven't admitted they're planning. But tonight was not for analysis. It was for celebration. Our families mingled, her cousins taking photos of everything, my mom obsessing over centerpiece arrangements she had zero control over. My dad slapped my shoulder. "Tomorrow's big," he said, smiling. "Nervous?" "A little," I admitted. He laughed, but gently. "Means you're paying attention." Across the room, she looked beautiful. Not in the wedding dress sense, just in the everyday sense. The way she tucked her hair behind her ear when she laughed. The way she held a champagne flute with both hands like she needed something to anchor her. The way she bit the inside of her cheek when she was thinking. I'd always loved those tiny things. The small, unintentional human details. Which is why I couldn't shake the discomfort at how she kept glancing at her phone every few minutes. I wasn't jealous, just alert. I wandered over when she was alone. "Everything okay?" I nodded at the phone. "Yeah, just group chat drama. Bridesmaid stuff." But she angled the screen away. That tiny movement. That instinctive, reflexive shield. I didn't react. I just nodded. Another thing to file away and pretend didn't sting. During dinner, I gave my little speech. Nothing dramatic, just gratitude. Some jokes, a memory from our first road trip. People clapped. She squeezed my hand. And for a moment, everything felt right again. But then, during dessert, her best friend Jen grabbed a mic and insisted on giving what she called a preview maid of honor speech. Jen was loud, chaotic, overconfident in her humor, but mostly harmless. Still, she had a way of saying things that sounded like jokes, but landed a bit too close to real. She started with some typical roasting. How I stole my fiancé from her, how she used to third wheel us on movie nights, how our dog liked her more. People laughed. Then she shifted to the relationship. "And honestly," Jen said, winking at my fiancé, "we all knew she could do better, but here she is." Laughter. My fiancé's face froze for half a second. "She's settling," Jen added, raising her glass. "But hey, that's what marriage is, right?" More laughter. Uncomfortable, scattered. My mom looked confused. My dad frowned into his wine glass. I smiled politely, tight, but polite. I'd learned to take these jokes with a grain of salt. Jen was one of those people who didn't understand boundaries unless someone physically drew a line around them. But something happened then. My fiancé laughed, too loudly, too long, then leaned into the mic and said, "Well, yeah, I guess I am settling a little." The room froze. Just enough of a pause that everyone heard it. Just enough sincerity in her voice that it wasn't a joke anymore. Jen gasped theatrically. "Oh my God, girl, don't say that out loud." Her fiancé shrugged, grinning awkwardly. "What? I'm just being honest." The laughter was smaller this time. Tense. I felt something pull tight in my chest. Not anger. Not embarrassment. Clarity. It wasn't the words, it was the tone. The offhand, casual honesty said in a moment where she wasn't thinking about consequences. That's when people tell the truth. I held her gaze for a moment. She looked away. Later, while guests drifted toward the bar, she came up to me quietly. "Hey," she said, touching my arm. You know I was joking, right? Like, come on. You know how Jen is. I just matched her energy. Matched her energy. I repeated. Yeah, it was nothing. Okay. She blinked. You're not actually mad, are you? No, I said. And it was true. I'm not mad. Just awake. She looked relieved, then forced a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Good. Because I want a night to be perfect. Perfect. The word hung in the air, fragile and ironic. I studied her face. The tension, the way she kept scanning the room, the way her phone vibrated again in her purse and she flinched. And all at once, I realized something. She didn't want to hurt me. She didn't plan this. She didn't even understand what she'd revealed about us. But she had said something real, something she'd probably been afraid to admit even to herself. And I had finally heard it. When the dinner ended and the families headed to their hotels, she kissed me goodnight. Soft, automatic, a kiss out of habit. See you tomorrow, she whispered. I nodded. I watched her walk away, back straight, shoulders tense, avoiding the eyes of a few bridesmaids who were whispering. I stood in the empty parking lot long after everyone else had left. That tightness in my chest wasn't shock anymore. It was certainty. Something had shifted tonight. Something fundamental. And tomorrow was the wedding. But as I sat in my car, listening to the engine hum, I knew, clearly, quietly, with absolute honesty. Tomorrow might not happen that I didn't sleep. Not in the dramatic, tossing and turning way, just a quiet, steady wakefulness. My brain kept replaying every interaction from the rehearsal dinner, but not with panic. More like a slow audit. A careful, methodical inventory. Her tone, her deflection, the forced laughter, the way she kept stepping slightly away from me all night. A year ago, she would have run to sit in my lap between courses. 6 months ago, she would have held my hand the whole dinner. 3 months ago, she would have posted an Instagram story with "Can't believe I get to marry him." But she hadn't posted us in weeks. Little things. Always the little things. By sunrise, I knew I needed clarity before the ceremony. Or rather, I needed honesty. From her. And from myself. She answered on the second ring. Hey, she said, voice groggy, half pretending to be cheerful. Everything okay? You're not calling with bad luck vibes, right? I want to talk, I said. Silence. Now, she asked. Yes. Before everything starts. Another pause. Okay, I'll come to your room. No, I said gently. Let's meet outside. There's a trail behind the lodge. We can walk. She exhaled loudly. Annoyed, not anxious. A telling detail. Sure, she said. Give me 10 minutes. She arrived in leggings and a sweatshirt, more casual than I'd expected. No makeup, hair tied back, dark circles under her eyes. She looked tired. Not physically, emotionally. We walked for a minute without speaking. Pine needles cracked under our shoes. Morning fog clung low to the ground. Finally, she stopped. Okay, she said, folding her arms. Say it. I studied her face. Do you feel like you're settling? I asked quietly. She flinched. Just a fraction. Then rolled her eyes. Seriously? You're still on that? I'm asking honestly, I said. No anger. Just truth. She shook her head. I told you last night. I was matching Jen's energy. It was a joke. You said it like it wasn't. That's because she caught me off guard. Or because you meant it. Her jaw tightened. So what? She snapped. Every couple feels that sometimes. It doesn't mean anything. Do you feel it sometimes? I asked. She pressed her lips together. I don't know. Maybe. It's been stressful. Planning a wedding is stressful. It doesn't mean I don't love you. But do you want to marry me? She blinked hard. Once. Twice. Then she looked away. That's a stupid question, she muttered. It's not, I said. Look at me. She didn't. I waited. Finally, slowly, she turned back, eyes glossy. I want the life we talked about, she whispered. The house. The kids. The stability. I want that. With you. But do you want me? I said. Or the life plan? Her breath hitched. She looked terrified for one tiny moment. Then she dropped her shoulders and whispered. I don't know. There it was. Soft. Honest. Crushing. And yet strangely freeing. She covered her face with her hands. God, I sound awful. No, I said. You sound truthful. She shook her head, tears slipping through her fingers. I didn't want to break anything. I thought it would get better after the wedding. I thought the feeling would go away. That's not how marriage works, I said softly. I know, she whispered. We stood there for several seconds. The morning felt too still for what was happening. Finally, she wiped her face and said, Are you calling off the wedding? I'm asking if you're sure, I said. Because if you're not, if any part of you is hesitating, it's okay to tell me. It's okay to stop. She looked at me with this mixture of relief and heartbreak and fear, and she whispered the quietest word I'd ever heard from her. Maybe we should. The wind stirred the trees. A bird called somewhere far away. And that was it. No dramatic fight. No betrayal. No screaming. Just two people facing a truth we'd both avoided. We walked back in silence. At the split in the trail, she stopped again. What do we tell everyone? She asked, voice trembling. The truth, I said. She winced. My mom will hate me. My mom will be confused, I said. She laughed softly through her tears. Yeah. A long pause. Will you still go to the venue? She asked. To help explain? I will, I said. She nodded. Thank you. The cancellation was chaos, but not loud chaos. Tense whispers, dry tears, vendors moving mechanically, families shocked and scrambling and trying not to blame anyone directly. Her parents cried. Mine offered quiet support. Bridesmaids circled her like she was fragile glass. I gave her space. Not coldly, just respectfully. When everything was settled, when rings had been returned, when her dress was zipped back into the garment bag, we stood near the parking lot between our cars. She hugged herself, looking smaller than I'd ever seen her. Will you stay in touch? She whispered. Eventually, I said, but I think we both need space first. She closed her eyes. A tear slipped out. I didn't want to hurt you, she said. I know, I said. That's why you told the truth. She nodded. And that was the last time we spoke for months. Update that I didn't plan to take the honeymoon. Not at first. After the dust settled from the canceled wedding, after the awkward apologies from her relatives, after the swarm of texts from people who suddenly needed explanations, I wanted exactly one thing. Quiet. But 2 days later, the travel agent emailed me a reminder. Non-refundable package. Departure in 48 hours. 16 days. Faraway island. Prepaid everything. And for the first time in months, the idea didn't feel like running away. It felt like breathing. So I packed light, told my job I'd still take the PTO, and got on the flight. Not to heal, not to find myself, just to remove myself from the noise that IT was strange at first. Walking into a honeymoon suite alone. A massive bed turned down for two. Champagne on ice with 2 glasses. A card saying congratulations to the newlyweds. I stared at it for a long moment, then poured 1 glass for myself and left the other empty. A symbol, a reminder, a simple acknowledgement of what almost was. I wasn't angry. Not anymore. Just grateful for the honesty that came before the real damage. And the days that followed were healing in a way I didn't expect. I woke up naturally with sunlight. I swam until my skin pruned. I read books I'd put off for years. I talked to strangers with no explanation of my life. I ate alone without apologizing for it. I took long walks and longer naps. And somewhere between day 6 and day 10, something shifted. The tightness in my chest eased. The constant replaying of the rehearsal dinner stopped. The internal whisper asking, what did I do wrong, finally went quiet. Because the truth was simple. I hadn't done anything wrong. Neither had she. We were just 2 people standing on opposite sides of a truth we hadn't wanted to face. And we faced it before saying vows we would have grown to resent. Clarity is painful, but it's mercy too. She texted me on day 12. I hope you're safe. Sent at 2:14 a.m. I didn't reply. Not out of spite, out of boundaries. I read it once, set the phone down, and went back to listening to the waves. No more half-truths. No more emotional band-aids. No more building a marriage on top of unspoken doubts. When I returned home, people had moved on faster than expected. Coworkers stopped whispering. Friends stopped asking what really happened. My family had accepted everything with the quiet relief of people who trusted my judgment. And her? I didn't hear from her again. At least not directly. But the information trickled in any way. Through mutual friends, through social media posts, through people trying too hard to be subtle. She wasn't doing well. She'd moved back in with her parents, temporarily. She'd quit her job to reset. She wasn't dating. She'd told people she felt like she'd made the biggest mistake of her life. I didn't celebrate that. I didn't take satisfaction in her regret. Pain doesn't cancel pain out. Sometimes 2 people hurt in different directions. Month 5 was when her mother sent a message. Polite, formal, measured. We would appreciate the opportunity to speak privately. We believe there are things left unresolved. I didn't respond. Boundaries. Month 6 was when her father called my dad. That conversation was short. And month 6, week 2, was when I opened my front door to find her younger sister on my porch, holding a container of homemade food and wearing a pleading expression. She's hurting, she said quietly. She realizes what she lost. I nodded. But that wasn't the point. I hadn't rejected her sister. I had rejected a version of marriage built on fear, uncertainty, and quiet dishonesty. The sister studied my face. She doesn't want an apology, she added. She wants a chance. I know, I said. But wanting a chance isn't the same as being right for each other. She didn't argue. She just sighed softly and whispered, I think you were the right one for her. She just didn't understand it at the time. Maybe, I said. But marriage isn't about potential. It's about certainty. The sister left without pushing further. 2 days later, her entire family tried again. This time, not by text, but by showing up. Final update. They showed up on a Saturday morning, just after 9. I was in the middle of making coffee when my doorbell rang. One long press. Then 2 short ones. Not urgent, not polite, just persistent. When I opened the door, her whole family stood there. Her mother, her father, her sister, her aunt, for some reason. And behind them, half hidden, head down, her, my ex-fiancée. She looked smaller, not physically, but emotionally, like someone had shaved off all the confidence she used to wear like jewelry. Her father cleared his throat. May we come in? He asked. I stepped aside, not because I wanted to, because avoiding them on the porch would have turned it into a neighborhood spectacle. They filed in and sat awkwardly around my living room, like people entering a church they didn't believe in anymore. She stood near the doorway. I didn't tell her to sit. I didn't tell her she couldn't. We just looked at each other across the room. It had been 6 months, but it felt both longer and shorter, like time had folded in on itself. The conversation her parents came for. Her mother spoke first. We're here because she's been struggling, she said carefully. As a family, we feel there are things that need to be said. I nodded once. Neutral. Her father leaned forward. She regrets what she said at that dinner. My ex finally lifted her eyes. I do, she whispered. I regret everything about that night. I didn't respond. Her aunt jumped in next. She was always the dramatic one. She was nervous. All brides get nervous. And Jen's speech. Well, she always goes too far. It wasn't fair to judge the whole relationship on one joke. Her father shot her a look. Clearly they'd agreed to be more measured. But the damage was already done. This wasn't about apology. This was about undoing consequences. I didn't judge the relationship on one joke, I said quietly. I judged it on what she confirmed the next morning. Her mother blinked. Confirmed. I turned to my ex. Do you want to tell them? I asked. Or should I? She swallowed hard. Then, voice soft, cracking. I told him I didn't know if I wanted to marry him, or if I was just wanting the idea of the life we planned. Her mother gasped. Her father's face fell. Her aunt whispered, Oh, honey. But she kept speaking, tears gathering. I told him the truth. And he listened. And he made the right decision. And I didn't realize how right it was until months later. That surprised them. Me too, a little. She wiped her cheek, embarrassed. I wasn't ready to marry anyone. I thought I would grow into it. I thought the feeling would come later. She shook her head. It didn't. Not until after he left. Her mother whispered, But you do love him now. You've said. My ex shook her head gently. No. I love who he was to me. But that's not the same as loving him the way you're supposed to love someone you marry. Silence filled the room. Her family exchanged stunned glances. This wasn't the reunion speech they'd prepared for. She continued, voice trembling. I heard him. Not because I wanted to, but because I was too afraid to admit I wasn't ready. I said something cruel in a moment where I wasn't thinking. And he listened to what I didn't know how to say. Her voice broke. And he let me go before I made a bigger mistake. Her parents finally understood. This wasn't a man rejecting their daughter. This was a man stepping away from a relationship that would have ended painfully for everyone. Her father sat back, deflated. Her mother covered her mouth, eyes wet. Her sister watched quietly, nodding slowly, as if she'd known all along. Her final words to me. Eventually, her family left the room so she could speak alone. Not for drama, for privacy. She stepped closer, hands clasped in front of her like someone approaching a confession booth. I'm not here to get you back, she said gently. That wouldn't be fair. Not to you, not to me. I studied her. She wasn't lying. I'm here because I needed to say thank you, she continued. For not marrying me when you sensed I wasn't all in. For seeing what I couldn't. For not hating me. I felt something shift, not forgiveness, because I'd never needed to forgive her. More like closure. Mature, quiet closure. I don't hate you, I said. She nodded, relieved. But we can't go back, I added. Her eyes closed. A single tear slipped down. I know, she whispered. I think, deep down, I always knew. She took a shaky breath. You were the right person, she said softly. Just not the right time. I didn't respond. Some truths don't need answers. She wiped her face, straightened herself, and whispered, Goodbye. I watched her walk down my driveway. This time her steps weren't tense or agitated. They were steady. Her family followed silently, confused but accepting. And that was the end. What came after? I didn't feel triumphant. I didn't feel victorious. Just quiet. Like I'd survived something heavy and was only now realizing how much weight I'd been carrying. In the weeks that followed, I focused on rebuilding the parts of myself I'd neglected while trying to keep our relationship afloat. I went back to hobbies. I traveled. I reconnected with friends. I learned to enjoy my own company again. Trust takes time to regrow. Self-worth even longer. But I'm not bitter. Not ashamed. Not haunted. Just older. Wiser. More grounded. And grateful, strangely, that she told the truth before she walked down the aisle. Some heartbreaks save your life. Some endings protect you from futures that aren't meant for you. And sometimes the healthiest thing you can do, the bravest, quietest, most adult thing, is to walk away before the vows. Not out of fear, out of honesty, out of respect, for yourself, and for the person who couldn't love you the way you deserved. The story didn't end with revenge, or regret, or romantic reconciliation. It ended with clarity, and that's enough.